Break alchemy and the components of transformation and what creates the feeling of transformation. This is about the trifecta. So what is the ancient sacred universal trifecta? So powerful, you haven't heard of it before. There are three elements that come together to create a dynamic, potent force. In ancient times, these three significant components were always put together for people because they don't work without each other, that transform people into heightened states of consciousness. There were always protocols about how to access these states, and the trifecta effects were not kept from others, but integrated into the culture. I've wondered if there was an intentional agenda to create estrangement from these practices because they've almost been lost, because they've become so unfamiliar to us, we almost forgot we were estranged from them. And because the practices are individually transformative, and they're also transformative when groups listen to them, to be used in community for healing of the mind, emotions, and physical body, and connection to our inner spiritual development. So more about this in our next segment on epigenetics. What's the trifecta that has all these attributes and that changes us profoundly and consistently? Here are the elements of the transformative trifecta. Number one is often, almost always, there's listening to a voice that speaks to us literally and metaphorically through our being, that guides us and offers a resonance and easy to listen to message that comes from the heart. The voice consists of vocal frequencies, highly articulate tones, and modulations, expressing almost as an instrument. And as we listen to the guidance of the voice, we hear the message, words, tones, and feel the feeling that carries us as well, transports us into our deeper connection through the heart, into the symbols in our consciousness. The second key area of the trifecta are the patterns of rhythm. The patterns and the rhythm are literally embedded into our beings through how we live, through our own heartbeat rhythm, our brainwave activity, through the rhythm of our cerebral spinal fluid, which flows around our spine and up around our brain, which is like the ocean moving in and out through the pulsations of our electromagnetic fields. So pulsation patterns are the waves of the ocean, the sunlight, the electromagnetic field of the earth. But we know all pulsations aren't the same, so they have to be specific pulsations that affect us. And when we listen, that change our respiration, heart, and brain waves. So while some rhythms are energetic or intricate dance rhythms or really slow moving, the trifecta rhythms are very specific and transformative. So the listener relies on those specific rhythmic patterns to be consistent, to sustain the shift in consciousness where they connect, and it gently carries them and holds them from the beginning to the end through the whole process. Third part of the trifecta are the tones and frequencies. So we know certain tones are grating, irritating, they can be interruptive or disruptive, and other tones and frequencies are just benign. They don't really have an effect on us. And so the trifecta tones and frequencies are specific, they're resonating, penetrating, but not jarring, gentle, but powerful, comforting, consistent, satisfying, and easy. So with the repetition of the sound patterns and the familiarity, the listener becomes familiar with the changes that occur, that access the feeling, and the process becomes quicker and easier, which means that the more you engage with the practice, the easier it becomes to shift consciousness. And the connection to the process even deepens over time. So there can be a deeper connection, like accessing ancient sacred memory. So this process is called entrainment and a resonance with the particular sound patterns that shifts our consciousness. How listening to specific sound and music patterns are like listening to a lullaby. And when a child listens to a lullaby, they're awake and they need to go to sleep, or maybe they're having a difficult time, they're in distress, they're unwinding. So, usually, if not all the time, people who play a lullaby for a child, they use the same music over and over because the child gets listened to, they become accustomed to it, and they, whether they're singing or playing the music. So the child listens to the music and it carries them into a relaxed state where they go from wherever they are, from waking or distress, into relaxation, which happens pretty quickly sometimes. And then, which is the between state. And then they go from there into sleep, and it's gentle and easy. And for some reason, we're not applying that concept to teens and adults. So that could be useful. That same idea could be useful for teens. And definitely, like children, adults can listen to specific sounds and music patterns that transport the listener as smoothly as a child, like listening to a lullaby. And this is about repetitions. So part of what creates the effect of our response is that human beings are wired to respond to repetition. So repetition trains us through the resonance of matching, also called entrainment, where we connect to the patterns as they change us through listening. The particular repetitions of sound patterns cues our heart rate, respiration, brainwaves. So it's not like you play them for a moment. They have to be continuous repetitions to stay in that receptive state, and that trusting unfolds the process. It holds the space through the repeating patterns for us to sustain that place where we rest in developing resilience and getting all the benefits.